首先呢，我就是简单说一下，就是感谢呢咱们这个学生，他们那个很愿意出来跟大家分享他们的那个申请学校在学校的那个经验，回馈社会，回馈咱们这个社区，这个谢谢他们。同时呢，咱们也谢谢这学生的家长，他们家长也都是咱们社区常年义工，为咱们社区做了好多服务工作，也谢谢他们。
The students, I wanted to acknowledge Grace Dad. Is Grace Dad here? Please sit here. Thank you so much. You helped to bring two excellent students here. I really appreciate it. And I've been planning this for over a month now, but I didn't advertise this seminar until like in the last like 2-3 days. And I think no other topic would attract so much attention so fast. Like I get so many people in the classroom. That shows we really this topic and generates a lot of interest and is very important for our students and parents. I would like to introduce college students who have successfully completed high school and got into their dreams colleges. Anna from Yale University, Grace, Yale University, Larry from Duke, and Kahan from Duke.
I'm from Carey Academy, just like Grace, and also like Grace, I did speech and debate, and we got really close that way. So that kind of introduced me to a lot of networking, and it also built my confidence a lot to be able to speak and participate in a lot of other events. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I would definitely do it, even if you're not particularly interested in it. One thing for me that kind of did it for college, I think, was there were two things actually. Your essays are really important when you get to that level of university, and your recommendations from your teachers are also really important. So the recs that I got from my teachers were really important. I spent a lot of time with my teachers. I built those relationships over a long stretch of time, and a lot of the teachers that were writing me recs were kind of following me from early high school to very late high school. So they had a lot of experience with my growth, they had a lot of experience with me inside the classroom and outside of the classroom, and I think them speaking to my character, also my academic transcript really helped me, because getting that perspective from somebody who's not you is in your recommendation letters. So I think that really helped me in the college process. And then your essays, so actually Grace used this phrase for me. She was like, basically you want to write a love letter to your college and hope that they write back to you. So what I did, when I visited Yale, I fell in love with it, and so I never thought I'd get in, but I really poured my heart out in my application, and I think that had a lot to do with the success that came afterwards. Really take a unique approach to your supplements and your essays. Really just talk about what you love. I wrote my Common App essay about a parking lot, and that meant something to me. So I mean, that would be my advice, because I mean, my grades and my standardized testing scores were okay. They weren't phenomenal, but I think that what really set me apart from the other students that were applying from my school and the other students that were applying in general is how I was really in love with Yale and how I expressed that, and also how my teachers had a reflection of me over the course of my time in high school.
Yeah, so Anna's already spilled a lot of the secrets that I would have mentioned as well, in that I think really the most important thing is to find something that you like doing, something that you're really passionate about, because they can tell, and they're going to notice, especially at a elite university level, if you're doing something because you want to put it on a college application or because someone told you is the right thing to do. And it's really difficult and really scary to find what you want to do and to find something that you're passionate about. But I think it really is about finding something that you enjoy and then maybe finding a way to make that academic. So that'll be my general takeaway from today. But I'm Grace. Nice to speak to all of you. And I'm, I guess, the oldest person on the panel, which makes me feel a little weird. But I'm a rising junior. I'm currently at Yale. I just had to declare, and so I'm studying global affairs and ethics, politics, and economics, which is really a lot of words that sounds like it's many different majors. but it's a little bit of statistics, a little bit of econ, a lot of political science, and a lot of kind of international relations. And I went to Carey Academy with Anna. Did a lot of speech and debate throughout high school, which was something that I was scared of going into high school, had a lot of like love-hate relationship with, but found that in the end it was something I was really, really passionate about. And then when I spoke to people throughout my college application process and when I wrote about it, it was different for me, where I could actually convey passions and tell you reasons why I was doing it other than like whatever trophy might exist or whatever award I could write down. I agree on the essays. I wrote my Common App about texting. It doesn't matter really necessarily the topic that you're writing about. You can write about something super serious. You can write about your interests, a very personal story, or something very impersonal. It's about how you write about it and really conveying passion. So I'm excited to hear all of your questions.
Hello everyone, I'm Larry, and I'm more of a STEM person, so I'm planning to major because you select your major in sophomore year. I'm planning to major in statistics and environmental science, so I'm definitely a STEM person. If you guys have any questions about that type of stuff, and I guess advice for me is to, in high school, really make use of your summers. A lot of my extracurriculars were during the summer. For example, if you're interested in STEM, science-related fields, it's really good to get an internship in the field that you're interested in, and things like that. So definitely make use of your summers, because what you do during the summer could really give you the push for college. Yeah, so if you guys have any STEM-related questions, here to help. Yeah.
All right, guys. So I'm Keon. Me and Larry went to Menlo High School, and as you might tell, me and Larry are not the best speakers. We did not do speech and debate all 4 years of high school, unlike other people on this panel. But we also both go to public schools, so not throwing any beef at private schools, but we might have some varying opinions on some things. For example, I would not say that our teacher recs coming from public schools mean as much, maybe, because let's be honest now, they don't get paid enough. Okay, so honestly, my recs were probably mediocre. I definitely went back to teachers that I had for over a year, but I do not believe that if you go to a public school, your recs will carry as much weight, because if you go to a private school, they probably expect you to have really solid recs. But I don't say my recs were bad, but I definitely do not think that they were the make or break for my school. And for my interests, I'm interested in STEM as well, probably going into computer science and maybe economics. And as for my tips of advice is, as many people said before me, that you really need to find an interest that you like, and the SAT is not an interest. So I would not put a lot of emphasis on getting that 1600. I feel like a 15, 20, and a really solid interest would be a lot better than just studying an extra summer to get that 1600. So I feel like as an Asian community, what we can really improve on is to not put so much emphasis on the SAT. You guys are overestimating its importance, and work more towards our extracurriculars. I believe that is something that we can do to improve our college apps. You guys, I really wanted to go to California, so I applied to Berkeley, UCLA, and Stanford, and I actually early actioned Stanford. And I feel like the whole college application process was like a learning process, so I really learned from applying to Stanford, and although they totally shot me down and were like, yeah, you're not coming to my school, I felt like I learned a lot, and I was able to completely rewrite my my Common App. So actually, same with Anna. I started 2 days, I completely scrapped my essay and wrote a new one for my Common App a few days before it was due, and it was about something completely different. It was about taking risks and doing the unknown, because at first my dad had set me up with someone who was going to help me write an essay, and I honestly hated it. It was not my interests. It was about flexing the things I did, and it was absolutely something I did not enjoy. So, being the rebellious kid I am, I took 2 days before the college actually for regular decision, I flipped it all upside down, writing about how I hated the first part. Anyways, so I had better luck, and I got into Duke regular decision, but for my schools that I applied to, I sticked around 10, and they were all pretty up there. I had like 1 or 2 safeties, but generally all my schools were pretty elite, and I was lucky to be admitted into a few, but Stanford really didn't want me in. I'm still kind of sad.
Okay, so I guess for me, unlike Kihan, like Duke has been like my dream school since forever. So I ED Duke, which means it's binding. If I get in, I have to go. So yeah, that's basically what got me through. But despite that, I still think I applied to more schools than Kihan. Like, I just wanted to be sure, so I applied to a lot of schools, and then in the end, I had to, resend my application from all of them since I got into Duke. But I guess my advice for that is like apply to schools that you think, at least for me, I felt that it was good that I applied to schools that like I might not even go to, because like it's good to just have a lot of safety schools and stuff like that in case you don't get into the schools you want. And I had a lot of backups besides Duke, even though Duke was my dream school. So definitely have a lot of we categorize safety schools, targets, and then reaches. So definitely have like a mix of both. A mix of all three. That way, that like even if you don't get into your dream school, you can still maybe get into another school that you're interested in, stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, Larry makes a really great point, and I would have brought it up if he didn't, about safeties, targets, and reaches. They're pretty much categorized based on your scores, and you want to make sure you have a good balance of all three. So a lot of people will say, I applied to mainly elite schools, and it worked out for me. You also don't hear from the people that it didn't work out for and end up at a school that they didn't want to go to. So I think actually list creation is one of the most important parts, that you want to be happy at pretty much every school on your list. You don't want to be applying to schools just because they're safeties, but you do want to make sure you're applying to schools that are safeties, are targets, and are maybe elite schools that you're reaching for. I personally ended up applying to 6 schools. That might sound very low, but I wouldn't recommend anyone go over really 10 to 12, because I think at that point, you do start to lose quality of application, and you're really diminishing your chance at getting into some schools that could have possibly wanted you if you had been able to spend more time on your application. I ended up applying to 6 because I got into Yale early. We also have early action, so it's non-binding. So I did end up applying to a lot of other schools, including I also applied to UC Berkeley. I applied to University of Southern California. I applied to Wellesley College, which is a girls' school, a liberal arts school up in Massachusetts. I applied to UNC, applied to Duke, so really a good range of schools, and I would say that my list ended up being pretty elite, and I was able to do that because I got in early, but I really wouldn't recommend it, and I was prepared to apply to a lot more safeties and a lot more targets had I not gotten in. So I think really the recommendation there is that I'd say arguably the most important part of your process is making sure that you understand the schools you're applying to. You give yourself a good chance to get into multiple, and really make sure that your student, or you would be happy and the school is a good fit for you regardless of which one you get into.
Yeah, Grace covered a lot of things. But yeah, the main thing is make sure that if you get into one school on your list, you'd be like, yes, I'm happy going here. As for the process and how long I took to apply, probably don't take my route. I ended up applying to 4 schools, and that's because I got into Yale early, and Yale was my top choice, so I ended up rescinding from everywhere. The 2 state schools I applied to early were NC State and UNC. I was actually at a debate tournament the weekend they were due, and I told my dad I was homesick, so could he fly me home early? But in reality, I hadn't started either app and they were due that day. So that's why I was flying home early, so I finished them that day, which is not a good idea. And as for my Yale application, I wrote it 3 days before it was due and ended up submitting it the night it was due. So I would advise, honestly, you don't need to take months to gestate your application. Most of the time, the best applications come in about a 2-week, 3-week span, because the more candid you are with your application, the better. And when you have more time to just edit and edit and edit and edit, it starts to not become you. It starts to just become something that's edited for the college process. So you want to try and make sure that you just kind of like, you know, put out what you want to put out and then maybe edit it 1, 2, 3 times and that's it. You want to kind of just leave it how it is. Yeah, I would, like they said, safeties, targets, reaches. You don't want too many reaches. Make sure they're a good fit for you. Like my dad worked at Harvard for a really long time, so people were like, oh, why don't you apply there? But I would be really unhappy there, so I didn't. So just because like you might have legacy at a school or just because like you might have a better chance at getting in there doesn't mean, like I would have rather gone to UNC over Harvard. So when it came down to it, I was like, I don't want to apply there. And as Grace said, you want to make sure that your application quality is really good because your essays matter a lot. Yale's application, I just know it was like 9 supplements, but some of them were kind of short. So you really have to think about them. And so you want to make sure you can take that time for each college that you apply to.
So can you each talk more about how you come up with the essay topics and what inspired you, how long it took you to write the essay?
For my essay processes, I'll start with my early action with Stanford. So the first thing I did, you know, summer just started, my junior summer, so maybe if you guys are juniors right now, I just opened up the college prompts and I looked at them. And I just kind of sat there for like a while. And so similar to Yale, Stanford had a lot of questions. So I was just processing the questions for a bit, and I like put it off for a week or two to really like think about what I could write about. So that was probably something that I did. But another thing for the college writing processes, I feel like stressing over them and like thinking about them all day is not the way you want to do it. You might want to like chill out, take a step back, and like do things that will help your mind ooze with creative juice. So for example, I did not swim for like 3 or 4 years. I quit swimming as soon as I started to high school, but as soon as I started writing my college essays, I started to swim again to get my mind to ooze creative juice. So that actually got me to join the swim team. Like, who would have guessed? But anyways, I really just started trying, like, doing things again that I kind of enjoyed but stopped doing to kind of like re-stimulate my life. So kind of just like re-experience living so that I could think about like what I did throughout my whole life and like what I really enjoyed and what I wanted to focus on. So take a step back from just thinking about what you want to write about and live your life. And if you find something meaningful in your life, you could perhaps turn it into a better essay than if you're just thinking about how to answer a question. That is my
So I guess you'll get like different opinions from all of us since we have like different experiences with the college admission process. But for me, I did spend a lot of time on my essays, but it was like a really long time frame. Like I gave like at least a month or 2 for each, you know, college I'm applying, or not each college, but like before the college was due, I'd give like a month or 2, but I wouldn't be like constantly working on it every day. It would be like once in a while, I'll think of something, and then, you know, I'll jot it down on, you know, my notebook or something, and then like add it into my essays. The other thing I wanted to say is like, if you have someone that knows you really well, maybe like parents or something, definitely ask them like, you know, what traits about me do you like and stuff like that. Since a lot of the essays will be about you, and oftentimes you don't really know, like, you can't see who you are. So for me, I definitely like ask my parents, what part of me do you like the best? You know, what traits I have, personality traits and stuff like that. And yeah, so if you have like really close friends, anything like that, that's, you know, definitely something like you can ask them. Or maybe like extracurricular activities. You could be like, oh, which one of my extracurricular activities do you think like impacted me the most? You know, you can ask a friend or something. So yeah.
You didn't ask me that.
Well, Keon's not much help with college applications, but yeah, that'd be my word of advice. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of really great stuff has already been said. I think like a couple notes I wanted to expand on, like one particular thing, like I don't think you realize until you're in it how emotionally exhausting the college application process can be, because you're surrounded by peers that are similarly stressed about it. You're still trying to balance schoolwork. You're often on very tight deadlines, And sometimes even like parents can be stressful. My parents were really, really supportive of me. And I was so lucky to get into my dream school early and not have to have an extended process as a lot of people do. But it can be so stressful, and essays are often like one of the peak areas of stress because they feel like you're really pouring your soul into a piece of writing. That piece of writing has to be within certain word limits and address a certain question. And even though we've been writing in class all of our lives, you've never written really about yourself and had to sum up your life in a way that college essays ask of you in a classroom. And I found that during my college application essay writing process, it was a lot of self-reflection, and it was a lot of like sitting in a corner playing music and really like thinking before I wanted to write anything. And I think I wouldn't start the process. I also, like Larry, took a decent amount of time on my essays. And I don't think anyone particularly spent like a lot less time than I do, but I, once again, over a very extended period of time, spent like a little bit of time every day thinking about it or like writing. And maybe I'd have like an idea that I'd jot down in a notebook and I'd write something down. And I also ended up writing a lot more essays than I actually ended up using. But I think I wouldn't start thinking or like starting to actually write your essays before this time after your junior year. So like for anyone just about to start senior year, you can start thinking about essays now. You don't have to, but I wouldn't start before that. Because you really want to make sure that you have a good grasp about like what is possible to write about, and starting too early can really hurt you in that you're getting bogged down in the editing process. I think something that you can start with is a drill I really benefited from was reflecting on a body part of mine and just free writing for 30 minutes. So I think I was like, oh, let me write about my hair, something I've never thought about, just to get in the flow of writing about myself and thinking about myself in writing. So that was a good way for me to start.
Yeah, I'd say 3 things that have kind of been mentioned, but I'm just going to expand. So what I did was I looked at the essay prompts, but then I just put them away. And I ended up deciding to write just right. Because like there's an option where you can just choose like other prompts. Like you don't have to use one of the common prompts that they offer. So what helped me was just being able to write without having to go back to a topic sentence and like, oh, does it still match? Does it still match? Does it still match? So just kind of like writing about my experience or writing about whatever helped me without having to look at some guideline. And then when I was finished, I went back, looked at all the prompts, and was like, oh, it fits into this one, I can choose that. If it didn't fit into that one, I would have just clicked the like extra one where it'd be like, I just chose to write about something that I wanted to write about. So I think that lets you express yourself better and more. Another thing that helped me too was like when I couldn't like write down the things that I wanted to say, sometimes talking helped me do that. So one time I was just like trying to like formulate an idea for my essay, so I sat in my car and put my recorded myself talking about some experience or some life experience or a class or something like that. So I'd go back and I'd play the recording and it would help me because I'd be like, oh, this and this and this, because sometimes talking is a little bit easier. And also just really indulge yourself in your experiences. So I guess like what I did for each of my essays was I indulged myself in a certain experience of my life. I wrote one of my essays about being a novice trainer and helping, kids learn debate. So that was an experience that I immersed myself in. I wrote another one about a class I was taking outside of school. So that really helped me to like kind of think of an experience, like was mentioned before with swimming or like reimagining your life. Like take an experience, indulge yourself in it, and then you'll be able to write about it a lot easier.
Great. Could you talk about how you select AP courses and how you arrange your coursework throughout high school, starting from the first year up to the last year?
I guess we had it a little bit easier because in 9th and 10th grade you can't really take APs unless you're particularly advanced in something. So we didn't start looking at AP courses until 11th grade. And your college counselor, I think, can help you a lot with that. Our college counselors were pretty integral in figuring out what you wanted to do, but also take the classes that you want to take. I know my 11th grade year I took AP Chem because I thought, you know, that's the hardest class and I would, you know, be able to shine because I took the hardest class, and it ended up just destroying me. It was like, it was terrible. And I like, and it, you know, like because I was so focused on trying to, you know, like figure out chemistry, which was something that was really hard for me, I lost a lot of my like interest in writing or English, which I was super duper interested in. So I kind of like had to readjust and like refine myself again, like refined myself again, which was really hard, especially to do right before your senior year. So make sure that you're taking the difficult courses in the things that you want to take them in. I know a girl who was in my same class as me, and she didn't take a science, like an AP Science, and she got into Duke. So you don't need a certain course. You don't need a certain, like, you don't need XYZ course. Make sure that your schedule's rigorous. My schedule was pretty hard, but it was in, like, they were in courses that I didn't want to take, which ended up ruining things for me my junior year, which I ended up fixing my senior year. So if you're really into STEM or comp sci or whatever, take those classes, take those AP classes. I ended up taking eight APs between 11th and 12th grade, but you took 11. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just take the courses that you're interested in, and yeah, and I mean make sure they're difficult, but also don't kill yourself in work that you really don't want to do or really can't seem to do.
Okay, yeah, and so Anna and I might have a slightly different experience because we did go to Carey Academy, but something that remains true regardless of what school you go to is like really take the courses you want to take. Because if you're taking classes only because they're really difficult supposedly, and like because you have a lot of friends who have told you how hard they are and you have no interest in them, it's going to reflect in your enjoyment, your ability to dedicate yourself to things you actually like, and also probably your grades. Because when you're passionate about something and you're interested in it, you're spending the time that you need to get good grades in it. I think I ended up taking 11 APs, but not that that actually matters. I went to Carnegie for middle school, and so I was academically accelerated in math, and so I ended up taking a lot of math APs. Otherwise, like, I took a very standard Carey Academy schedule. I ended up taking AP Physics my junior year. I didn't enjoy it, and it was probably because a lot of people told me to take an AP Science, and even though I didn't want to, I was taking it, which I wouldn't recommend, but like I understand that you do feel like you should, and you probably should take a rigorous coursework in the sense that you want to challenge yourselves. So don't shy away from things because they're difficult, but really pursue things that you're passionate about, even if your school doesn't offer it. They really just want to see that you're taking advantage of the resources that you're provided, even if that means you're taking an online course in something that you're actually passionate about, regardless of if it has AP status. They want you taking advantage of the ability of you to like hone your passions and really understand them. And sometimes that means taking difficult courses, but in what you're passionate about.
Okay, so I guess me and Keon's experiences will be a bit different since we're from public schools. At least with the counselor thing, like, I'm pretty sure my counselor doesn't know my name at this point. So, like, with Enlo, like, it's by the alphabet, and each alphabet has, like, a counselor, and each counselor has, like, you know, a couple hundred kids or so. So, really, like, when I get to talk to my counselor, it'll just be, like, you know, 1 minute talk. I'll just be like, hey, am I on track to graduate? And she'll be like, yeah, and then I'll just leave. That'll be mostly it, because it's a public school, and I don't really have, you know, that one-on-one conversation with my counselor. But as for me, I knew I was really interested in STEM from the start of high school, and if you know something that you're interested in, that makes it a lot easier to select courses. But the thing with, like, I guess some public schools is, like, there might not be, like, you might not get to, like, choose particularly, like, which classes you want, because there's, like, not that much of a selection, especially if you want, like, AP courses and stuff. So, like, I know, like, when I was a sophomore, choosing courses for sophomore year, I just kind of looked at like the course list and was like, yo, where are the APs? And then like I just like looked at each AP class to see if I was like somewhat interested and just chose them because I wanted a lot of AP courses. But definitely like I knew I was interested in STEM, so I would make sure like I would go on the list and then find like AP Environmental Science, AP Biology, and make sure that I take those courses because I'm interested in that. And when colleges see my my transcript, they'll be like, oh, this guy really like took all the science courses that his school offered, so he must really be interested in science and stuff like that. So definitely do that. But if you want to like experiment with like, for example, like statistics, I'm majoring in statistics now, but like from the start of high school, I never knew I would like be interested in it. But it just 11th grade, I was looking at the list and I was like, wait, there aren't really any more AP maths for me to take. And then I just took statistics. All right. The other ones are, yeah. There's some more calc stuff, but like I hate calc. So I just took statistics because I wanted to try it. And like, yeah, that's the thing. Like definitely if you're interested in something, take that course. But if you could like branch out and try different courses, just to see if you really like it, and later on you can take it. So, yeah, so I think me and Kihan took around like 18 APs through high school, but it's because we went to Enlo, and Enlo like we're being pressured to take APs since like our classmates all take that many APs. So it's like a really competitive environment, I guess, where if you aren't in like the AP Math class, AP Science class, like yeah, so that's just how it is. Yeah, so want to talk more about it?
Yeah, sure. So my outlook on AP classes is, so you should have like long-term interests, definitely. So since I was really young, I always knew that I wanted to grow up to be rich. So of course, I was pretty interested in the booming major of computer science. And of course, I wanted to know economics because I wanted to be rich. So going off of that, my long-term goals were definitely to take all the computer science classes out there and all the economy classes out there. So you kind of want to like generally know what you want to do in high school, and I would say for the first 2 years, you want to get rid of prerequisite classes. So things like chemistry, biology, like English, I don't know, like whatever you need to do to take the AP classes that you will later. So I took 2 years of honors computer science, which is probably not the best for my GPA, but I really wanted to learn computer science, so I did it anyways. And honestly, I feel like we are overestimating like AP's classes, because like, I hate it. I hate history, all right? Well, actually, now that I'm in economics, like, I kind of like it better, but I hated history, so I did not take any AP World History or AP US History, like Larry might have. So I really just kind of like slacked off in the history section because I knew I didn't want to do it. But I was really interested in STEM as well, similar to Larry, so I took all the STEM AP classes, and I think that, I think it really comes down to knowing what you want in the long term and building up to it your first few years and then completing it your upperclassmen years. So that'd probably be for course selection. I feel like if you miss a few AP classes, like, you might want to max out on AP classes. Like, okay, I can take 20 AP classes in my high school career if I do this, this, and this, but I don't really like to do this. Like, it doesn't matter, just don't do it then. So like, for honors, for AP US History, it was definitely worth it to take it, because that class, if you didn't take that, you'd have to take honors US History for 2 years. But I really hated history, so I just took honors. Like, great, I lost 1 AP, my GPA point probably dropped by 0.1, like, who cares, all right? Like, I don't think it affected me at all. So I would say don't pressure yourself to take APs, but definitely have like a long-term goal and what you want to do and build up towards it, and take AP classes for the rigor, not for the GPA.
I will open up the questions to the audience. Anyone wants to ask any question, please raise your hand.
So Anna and Grace, what do you think? What makes you be accepted by Yale in early decision? What do you think? What is your qualities so that they decided to accept you in the early decision?
Yeah, I can go first. And this is like very nuanced. Yale is like an early action school. Doesn't really matter. It just means it's not binding, whereas like Duke is early decision. But we were both accepted early, and the difficult thing is there's no like one answer that I can tell you like this is definitely what got me into this school. Because really, even afterwards, even as like a rising junior, having been at this school for 2 years now, I don't know what got me in technically, you know? I can't find my file. I hear they keep it somewhere. Everyone who gets into Yale early is someone who's going to fit in with the student body, who's going to be happy on the campus for the most part and contribute to being good friends with the people that currently exist there. Each school kind of, especially at the elite level, has like a kind of student culture where people think certain things are important or people like to do certain things on campus together. And in the end, that's the difference maker. What can tangibly change that, I think for me, was that I wrote, like Anna said earlier, really a love letter to my school. I visited for the first time when I was a sophomore. I visited 4 more times. Every single time I loved it. And I really got this feeling on campus where I was like, if this place would ever have me, I know I could call it home. And that's really cliche. A lot of people don't feel that about their schools, and that's okay. But really identifying why you want to go there, what makes that school different to you, and conveying that through your essays, through your interviews, through everything in your application, and prove to them why you fit in with that specific school, with all of its specific differences and quirks, is what gets you into these schools.
Yeah, Grace pretty much covered it, but like I mentioned earlier, the essays will really set you apart, and I think that's why it's really important to understand each school that you're applying to really well. So a certain school might be looking for kind of like this shift towards this type of writing or this shift towards this type of writing, which is why like I applied to University of Chicago. That was my 4th school other than the 2 state schools, and my essay for that school was totally different than my essay for Yale. So I think really understand the college that you're applying to before you apply to it, because the only way that they subjectively analyze who you are as a person is through recs and through your essays when you speak about yourself. So yeah, I would just say it's really important to kind of sell yourself that way through the essays and really talk about you and be candid with them, and don't try and like formalize your writing or anything like that.
And we keep asking. So I guess most of you, all of you, maybe the high school, the academic background, all your high school GPA are either above 4 or very close to 4, right? All of you.
Are we talking unweighted or
Okay,
weighted?
so there's unweighted and weighted. So unweighted means that like AP and standard and honors are all 4.0 for an A, and then weighted just means like AP is 5 for an A, while honors is like 4.5 and then 4 for standard. So for I mean, it's fine if you get like a couple B's, because like unweighted is like, you know, you can get like not a perfect 4.0 unweighted. If you get a perfect 4.0 unweighted, that means you just got all A's, right? Which oftentimes that means like you didn't take enough APs, or you're just really just smart. But like if you have a high weighted, I think that's more important, because that means you showed that it shows the college you took a lot of APs. Yeah. Wait, so what was the question? What was the question? Oh yeah, I mean, I assume.
I guess all of you must have a high school GPA very close to 4.
Unweighted,
Right.
yeah.
And almost all of you like have all the SATs really high score. Am I
Oh
close?
yeah.
I know. Okay, so I guess I will have a lot of varying opinions, but honestly, my standardized test scores were pretty bad, but I did have a 4.0, so I don't know if I'm the Asian or not, but so I submitted like a 1410 to most of my colleges, and I super scored that to a 1520, but I would like to say like, it's definitely important. I was definitely lacking in standardized tests, but I do not think that it is like, I think that, once again, I said this before earlier, but the 1600 is definitely not required. I feel like a 1520 and and rounding out your app would be a lot more strategically better. But I like hated the standardized test, so I didn't do it. So no, I do not have a good standardized test score, but yes, I have a 4.0. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's me.
So I guess. Oh wait, do you have a question? Oh, I mean, like I don't have too much. I just wanted to emphasize this point, because I have like since we go to Enlo, you know, everyone's competitive. You know, all the Asian kids, all our friends are like, oh, I need to study for my 1570 to become a 1590. And we're just like, yo, why. Like,
Yeah, what?
No. Okay. Here's the thing. It's like a threshold, right?
It's
like,
insane.
Like you, of course, you can't have like a terrible standardized testing. If you have like a 1200, yeah, your app's gonna get thrown if you like apply to a top school. But if you have like, I guess like above a 1500 would be nice, right? If you have above a 1500, it's way more important to like spend that time doing extracurriculars. Like that stuff is more important. Or even like communicating with your teachers. That stuff is way more important. And like almost all my friends that like went for that SAT route where, you know, they spent like a good 3 months just cramming SAT for the 1550 to go up to a 1570, you know, they all like got rejected from their dream schools because they didn't, a lot of them didn't focus on their like extracurriculars and stuff like that. So that's something that I wanted to emphasize. It's like, I feel like, and like, you know, with Asian parents, especially like all the group chats and WeChat and stuff, and like my mom's in them, and my mom's like, yo, why don't you have a 1600, son? And I'm like, sorry mom, I'm actually doing extracurriculars and, you know, boosting my application by doing stuff I like research, you know, that stuff. And in the end it worked, you know, I got accepted into the school I wanted to and stuff like that. So really like that, I don't think it's like that necessary to bump your score up a tiny bit, because at that point like a mission officer isn't going to be like, oh, this guy has a 1550 and this guy has a 1530. Let's just accept this 1550, you know, well, without looking at their other stuff, right? And I feel like
The other stuff is more important.
yeah, the other stuff is definitely more important. In fact, I think, at least in my mind, I think that like grades, okay, I think grades are a lot more important than standardized testing, and extracurriculars are more important than standardized testing.
Grades.
Well, okay, so I think grades and standardized and extracurriculars are around the same, with standardized testing being a little bit less important. But I guess it varies. But grades I guess are important because it's like all 4 years, like throughout high school. If you have a good GPA, that means throughout all of high school you did well, consistently doing well. Well, SAT is oftentimes just like, oh, one time you average 1500 on practices, then you get like 1580. Well, you know, does that? I don't think it's like something that like colleges would like care so much about, like that one score, you know.
Yeah, but can I jump back for one quick thing? All right, so
Yeah.
thanks. All right, so one thing that I really feel like this is a message probably to the Asian community, but we almost like entrap ourselves into idolizing the 1600 4.0, and I feel like that's really prevalent in exactly the school me and Larry went to. I don't know, there was like all the Asians were at the top 30 were all Asian, all right, so everyone was there, like you were expected to take 6 AP classes your sophomore year and 6 your junior year. That was just the norm, so that's what we did. But and you were expected to like bring your 1550 to a 1570, but that's not what I did. But anyways, 1550 to like a 1570, yeah. So I feel like the Asian community is really idolizing the super good SAT and the 4.0, but I feel like that is incorrect. I feel like that it's, like Larry said, it's probably like a threshold. You definitely want them to be good, but it is not like the most important. As like Larry said, like extracurriculars are just as important as your grades and more important than your standardized test, is what like me and Larry think. So like, I think that the Asians, like, especially the Asian community, have fallen into a trap where they just pressure their kid to study SAT. Don't do that, okay? Don't. It's a trap. It's not worth the time. Yeah.
You have to get a decent good score. Like, once you have that like 1500 plus, it's like,
yeah. You don't need to be.
Yeah, like get your kid an internship or something
Yeah.
like that. You
Don't
know,
be
like,
stressing out 1600. All right. Like yes.
Wait, I have a very brief thing to say on this, and I think Anna does too. We're going to be really quick though, because understand everyone's got lots of questions. So what admissions actually say about this is both SAT and grades are check boxes. After the early application cycle, every year Yale releases this article, and it's released again every year, and they basically say 90% of our applicants have the grades and have the SAT that is within our range. It's literally a checkbox, and they see it, and they're like, cool, you have it, moving on. It's never really a difference maker, so getting that 1600 and that 4.0 is great, but if you're losing out other parts of your experience, your essay writing, even you're honing your passion for it, it's not worth it.
Yeah, yeah, I will say, like, another person applied to Yale with me, she probably had better grades than me, honestly. I didn't have a perfect academic transcript, but she didn't get in and I did. And I think that what really set me apart from her is that the way that I framed my essays were very unique, and they were like, okay, like I like her as a person, not for her grades. I met the requirement for the grades, and then it's like, okay, how much do I actually like vibe with her as a person? And then that's when they defend you in front of other people. So just as long as you have decent grades, I think I got 1 A+ the entire time in high school, and like that was like 4 years. So like that's not that, like it's not that important. Like you're in A range, you can get a B, you can get 2 Bs. Like it's not that big of a deal. But as long as you just meet those grade requirements and that's it, like it's really just about who you are and how you sell yourself to colleges.
I think someone back there had a question. Yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of have 2 questions. First is, how many college tours did you do, and when did you start them, and did that kind of affect where you wanted to go? And then the second is, if like an elite school is like your reach school, then how did that affect, like, if you did early decision or early action or like regular decision, like did that affect like when you looked at your GPA and your scores, like how did you decide that?
I can go first on that one actually. So I did about 8 college tours. I toured Duke, and I started the spring of my junior year, and they were helpful, but honestly like the only campus tour that I really liked was Duke, and that was just because like I really like enjoyed speaking to one of the students. I think that what's most important is find students like, because when you go on a campus tour, you have one student who's just trying to give you like the facts about the school and that's it. And that wasn't really helpful to me. So like going to Grace or going to Chelsea, who are 2 of my friends at Yale, and talking to them about student life, talking to them about like day in and day out what they're doing, how the residential college system works, how like all of that gave me a lot more perspective on the school itself rather than just going on the campus tour. Your question about early, what was that part? Sorry?
So like if your elite school is like a reach school,
Okay,
then how do you
yes.
decide when to apply?
So, funny story about that, actually, I went into the office of my college counselor my junior year and I was like, I want to apply to Yale. And my ACT score hadn't come out yet, and she looked at me and she was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. So I started crying, and I was like, I really want to go here, like whatever. And so I was planning on EDing to Brown or Duke in the fall. And then comes time of the fall, I got a much better ACT score, and I came into her office, and she was like, if you really want to apply to Yale, apply early to Yale. Because the difference between Brown and Yale for me was like this. I really liked Yale, I liked Brown, but not nearly as much as Yale. And so I sat there for 45 minutes, and I told her to tell me not to apply. Because I was like, I really don't think I can get into this school. I don't think anyone with as low as grades as me, like I didn't have super low grades, but like most of the kids who were applying for my school had very, very high grades. No one had as high, like I didn't have as high grades as anybody else, and I told her just tell me not to apply. And so it really got down to the wire between do I ED to Brown with a much higher chance of getting in and risk losing like regular decision, right? Because I was like, well, regular decision, like other schools, is about the same as like, you know, Yale EA or whatever, and so I'm basically screwing myself. But I would say that if you're really in love with a school, apply there early, because that's reflected in your application. So my Brown application wouldn't have been half as good as my Yale application, because when I got to my Yale app, I was like, wow, I really love these questions, this is perfect for me. And I finished it pretty quickly, in like a couple of days. My college counselor was really mad, but like I finished it in a couple of days because I just really loved Yale. So I think that the decision is like, if you're in between like EAing to like a really, like the highest tier school like Stanford or whatever, and EDing to like somewhere else where it's like a 25% admit rate, 30% admit rate, compare those schools. Would I be much happier here than here? Or is it about the same, where it's like, okay, if I ED here, I'll be super happy. You know, so that gap, it like Yale and Brown used to be like this for me, and then over time it was like this for me. So my college counselor really pushed me to EA to Yale. So I would just say like, how happy am I gonna be here? Because that'll be reflected in your application too, which gives you a better chance of getting in.
That's kind of beautiful. I mean, my EA decision was pretty much decided for me because I knew my sophomore year that I was so in love that she couldn't talk me out of it, and she was trying, and I was like, nope, I'm set. This is the only option for me, and I can't see myself applying early to anywhere else because I was so in love, which, I mean, is a tricky thing because, like, I mean, if you think about it, for most people it doesn't work out. And I think the point is that if you really love a school, you have to go for it, and you can't be regretful of the possibilities if you end up not getting in, because you made that decision with the conscious understanding that you would have been so much happier there. And also that admit rates are higher for early, but for most schools, there are a few exceptions, and this comes through research to know where those exceptions are. But for the most part, if you're getting in early to a school, you would have gotten in regular. They're basically accepting the same students, and they're just acknowledging, at least, it's slightly different for ED because they know that you're going to go there and you have to go there. So technically, if you're a student that could have gotten a better offer, then they might take you with ED regardless. But especially with EA, like anyone who's getting in EA could have gotten in regular. And so don't be really tricked by the numbers game and try to like ED to schools that you wouldn't be that happy at because you think the percentage is that much higher.
So, do we want to speak or do you want to move to the next question? Oh.
Up to you guys, yeah.
Alright, so I was just like, I don't know, I just emphasize what the two girls have really brought to attention. So like, you know, they're like a dream, like they're like a happy scenario, right? They like applied to their ideal college and they got in, so that's good for them. But you know, I'm the other end of the story, and so this is what happens when you take a risk and not ED to like a really stable school that you know you'll get in if you ED. So I also had like it was definitely out there. I might have ED Duke, and I'm pretty like I'm actually like 100% confident that I would have gotten in Duke if I ED Duke. And but the thing is that I really like Stanford, and so it was a risk between. So I didn't know if I was going to get in Duke. Like no one can say for a fact, like while you're applying, that oh yeah, I'm going to get in Duke if I apply. So it was definitely like I could take the safer route and ED Duke, or I could like take the riskier route and EA Stanford. And of course I EA'd Stanford because I'm Pihan. But what really happened was like I want to like almost challenge the high schoolers out there to really take risks and go do what you love instead of maybe taking the like safer route and EDing to the college that you'll probably get in if you ED, because even if you like fail, it's a learning process, it's an experience to be had. I think that not EDing into a safe college that you're like pretty good chances of getting is worth it in the end. So you know, I come from the opposite end of the two girls, but I think that either way, taking the risk and applying to the school that you love more is definitely worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the public speaking and debate. So, yeah, it's a very important skill in our life. So I just, you know, generally Asian is not considered outspoken or very articulate in expressing their idea. You know, maybe Indians are good. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry for the mistake. Anyway, so yeah, would you please share how you can prepare yourself, you know, to get comfortable with public speaking and the debate, and what kind of enjoyment you got from having this skill?
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, it's not entirely based on the college app process, although speech and debate was a really huge part of my high school career. I know for me, me and actually a Duke student once did like a camp at Champion Learning Academy where we tried to teach public speaking and debate specifically to Asian Americans because we both did it a lot in high school and like are very cognizant of the fact that Asians, especially Chinese Americans, aren't seen as outspoken. Like we're known for like really working hard and like getting grades and not known for like delivering speeches or even like being involved in the humanities. And it's seen as like more of a fluffy thing amongst our community. And I think to really dispel that, first of all, there's nothing about who we are that would make us even close to disadvantaged in the field. And I know that when I was going to high school, Carey Academy starts in 6th grade, but I started in 9th grade. I went to public middle school, and one of my greatest fears, and still kind of one of my greatest fears today, was public speaking. So really, I like to think that my parents told me that they signed me up for speech and debate, and I was horrified. And they were like, look, the program seems good, we really want you to step out of your comfort zone and try it. And at first I hated it, and I thought I was going to be horrible at it. There was nothing that I could imagine that would be worse and would give me more anxiety and stress me out more. And I think like really putting yourself in risky spaces wherever they are, like maybe you're very comfortable with public speaking, but maybe you're not comfortable in like a lab setting. I think it's like the perfect thing to do, especially in early high school, to really encourage you to hone your interests and your passions. I found mine in speech and debate, where oftentimes I was super stressed out, and I cried so many times, and it really was like really hard work for me. And I was always like thinking maybe this isn't what I want to do, but there was something about the experience and the adrenaline, and then finishing a speech that I could leave the room and be like, I can see the growth in myself and in what I'm speaking and in my delivery, and really feel like this event has changed me and I've learned a lot that kept me coming back.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Grace, can you talk about how much time you and Anna spend on debates, tournaments, and how much time you spend on debates?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we probably spent different amounts of time doing different things. So what's nice about speech and debate is that there are so many avenues that you can take. You can do a lot with it. I did speech and I did debate. So I learned how to do both of them. I enjoyed both of them equally. I spent a lot of time training novices. So my junior year, instead of going to a lot of tournaments, I was like day in and day out. Like I'd stay after school until 6 and I'd come in at 7 to like help kids learn debate, which was very fulfilling for me. I would say it takes a lot of time. It can be an easy commitment if you're not committed to it. There are some people that go to 2 tournaments a year and they're fine with that. There are some people that go to 15 tournaments a year and they're still looking for more tournaments to go to. So it can take a lot of your time. It cannot take a lot of your time. If you want to get really good, if you want to excel, if you want to make it kind of like your passion and you're really interested in it, then you spend a lot of time doing it. So it's flexible in that way. There's also, you can do different things. If you don't like arguing and you don't feel like you can think on the spot, then, you can do speech, where you memorize a speech ahead of time and you deliver it, right? And that's all about delivery and speaking to people. So I think that's a nice thing about it, is that it's very flexible. You can do what you want and you can spend as much time as you want. It's just about how much you want to get out of it.
And I'd really recommend that for any parents out there, or even students who are still early on in their high school career, just to give it a try, because I think there's something in the speech and debate field, and all schools have speech and debate, or Model UN, some kind of public speaking type of extracurricular. Even if they try it once, decide that it's horrible and they hate it and it's their least favorite experience, give things a try. I did end up spending, it was my main extracurricular. I didn't, in my opinion, do that much else. But I was spending arguably 18 hours a week on, so really a full part-time job on speech and debate. And that was lots of after-school practices. When you go to a tournament, it's potentially your entire weekend, or you get up at 6 and you come back at 9 on a Saturday. Which is really a testament to also how much my parents trusted me and were willing to put in a lot of resources and dedication to take me to those places and put resources into it, and really trust my ability to do this, and really go all in, even if it didn't have to work out for me in the end. So I think, yeah, if you're really passionate about something, it takes time. It takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of dedication, and it's okay to skip around too and not find that passion immediately, but it's hard work and you're going to have to put time into things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Can you share about your experience about the time management during your high school? Because I'm not sure any of you doing some like sports, like basketball or like swimming. I know debating is great. It's also a kind of activity. So can you share some of your experience of the time management?
So time management. Well, I don't know. I'll have to think about it because my case is this question.
Yeah, I go first. I guess no one like exactly knows, or like I don't exactly know like how I manage my time. It's just like, I guess I like make a pretty good balance between schoolwork, extracurriculars, and like social life. So I think like all three of those are really important, right? Like when I get home, the first thing I do is I really like efficiency. So right when I get home, I put everything down, finish my homework, and then like I start like doing other stuff, right? So I guess it's like everyone has to find their own balance, right? And like asking this question, like we can't like really we don't know where your like children's extracurricular activities are and stuff. But like I guess everyone has to find the balance. And I would also say social life is also really important. Like always like find time like during the weekend to meet up with friends and stuff. Because they'll. I don't really know how else to spend time. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, in my opinion, I'm still not very good at time management. I know that might sound disingenuous to a crowd because, like, you might see me as, like, this student who got into school that she wanted to go to. But once again, they're not looking for perfect students, and I definitely wasn't that, especially in time management. I think I'm a huge procrastinator, in my own opinion. And that doesn't mean I didn't get my work done, because I knew by my own standard that I was holding myself to, and nothing really imposed by parents, but by my own standard, I wanted to get my work done. That wasn't ever a question for me. But how long it took, it did sometimes take a lot of, I don't know, watching a lot of TV first. And I can't say that I immediately went home and finished all of my homework first and then looked at other things. And like sometimes you feel like you have other priorities. Like I did do sports technically for a little bit of time. And it was a varsity sport technically. And so I went to practices, was doing like other priorities that I think are similarly, like maybe not academic, but similarly important to your college app. And I mean, sports weren't a big part of my life. Debate was a big part of the time I spent. And it, like the only tangible recommendation I can have is like, make sure your student or like your kids are grounded in what their priorities are, and that they're able to spend times on their passions, but also give them ability to, find their own way, because I know it's sometimes difficult to see maybe someone not constantly working on their schoolwork or not constantly honing an extracurricular, but social life is equally important, and relaxing and not burning out is equally important. And tangibly, you can try to keep a calendar and try to organize your time, but time management is a tricky question that I still don't know the answer to.
Well, Grace is a liar, because she's really good at time management. She'd have her homework done by 10 a.m., so for the next day. So I mean, if Grace is bad, then I'm really bad. But time unmanagement is almost not a bad thing. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I never came home and was like, okay, class A, class B, class C, and then I'm gonna go work on my extracurriculars now. There really was no fine line. I'd stay after school until 6 o'clock helping novices when I had the chem unit test the next day. So sometimes my time management was bad, but I guess it's the things that you choose to invest your time in. And a lot of times my extracurriculars would cross paths with my classes. So I didn't really set aside a time for extracurriculars and set aside a time for social life. My social life could be integrated into debate. I would see people and I would hang out with them, and that was great, but I was also challenging my mind. So my parents often got really worried about me because I wither my learning and all of that, and I talked about that in my college app. A lot of times, like, though, I think my best piece of advice, if you really want to stay on top of things, is finish things during school. Take advantage of free periods, because when you go home, you're not going to want to sit at a desk for another 7 or 8 hours just doing that work. So if you can cut out 1 or 2 hours during the school day, then get that done and do that. There were a lot of times. Yeah, I guess I'm a liar too, but like during the school day, I would go take my lunches in the library, and everyone, you know, would go outside and have lunch. So I'm not saying like cut your lunch time, but like I would get a lot done in those 45 minutes because no one else was in the library. It was super quiet, 0 distractions. I would get stuff done then, and then I'd be able to really indulge myself in my extracurriculars, which like ended up setting me apart too. So like kind of manage your time that way. But yeah, not being the best at time management, like everyone said, is not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, so.
Alright, so I've kind of come up with 2 points that I want to talk about. The first would be, alright, well let me just introduce like my time management. I'm also a mega procrastinator. Alright, I like to crown myself king of procrastination. But I procrastinate in almost a different way, as in I view assignments and homework as probably the most flexible commitment, alright? Teachers normally don't give you, especially like higher up, teachers don't give you an assignment and they're like, all right, it's due tomorrow, all right? They normally give you like a week or at least 3 days. So I view assignments and homework as probably the most flexible in your schedule. And that being said, I always push it to the end. And so I will do things like sports and go to social events instead and then cram it in the last. So I would like to say that it's very possible to complete your assignments and do extracurriculars as long as you work smart, because that like you can do your homework almost anywhere, like what Anna said. Like you could do it during lunch, you could do it at school, you could do it on the bus ride. So me and Larry, we go to a public school, we live in Karen, we go to Enloe, which is in Raleigh. Our bus ride, I kid you not, is over an hour because of all the bus stops. So
2 hours.
yes, like literally it's nearly 2 hours. So I would be doing a lot of homework during the bus ride. So doing homework should not be a problem. It should not be in your schedules. It should not be like the most important thing. You should find time and do it smart, all right? Like one thing I want to say is, if you block out a time in your schedule for just homework, I feel like, I don't know, but my experience is it's less productive work. If I like procrastinate and I find a few times to do my homework, it's always super like efficient, super like quality time. And that way I kind of like finish my homework in like a really concentrated, quality, dense time, so I don't spend a lot of time doing homework. I spend a lot of time wasting it and procrastinating and doing sports, so and going to social events. So I want to say the most flexible thing is definitely homework and assignments. You can find time to do it almost like in like random places throughout your day, and work like smart, not hard. All right, so like quality over quantity. You would rather get like 30 minutes of solid work done than block out 2 hours on your schedule and just sit there like scrolling through Instagram every other 5 minutes. So like, that's what I have to say for time management.
Another piece of advice that I would give is don't worry about what other people are doing, because like, you know, you could have a free period at the same time as someone else. Like I would always isolate myself during my free periods to finish my work, because if I saw someone else watching Netflix, I would want to watch Netflix. I'd be like, oh, I can just put it off. But like when you're really concentrated and you're by yourself, you have no other distractions. But like, also, some people will finish work faster than you finish it. And sometimes that would get me really frustrated, and I'd be like, I can't keep up, so I just give up. So like, make sure that when you try and finish your work, try and do it where you're like in an isolated space where you can get it done for yourself and get it done efficiently, and you can learn while you're doing it.
And everyone's experience is different. There's no right answer, you know?
So outside of academy, is there any experience or hobbies you think is very important for you, or you get benefit, especially when you put this experience on your essay for college application? You think that one is a plus for you?
You want to start?
All right. So throughout high school, I've been keeping up with sports. So I run like cross country and I swim a lot. Well, I swim in senior year, but so I like run half marathons, and I did cross country, and I did the 5Ks. And honestly, running is a very boring sport. Okay, you're just running. Like, what else is there to do? So I found that running was very good in self-reflection, as in like I had nothing to do while I was running, so I was just thinking about my life, myself, what I'm doing. Like, what's up? Like, what I gotta do when I go home? Like, how to do quality homework? Cause I just go home and like literally do it all in my head and then write it down or something. I don't know. So like, running sports was definitely something I've done, and I feel like it contributed a lot. Not as in like, oh, I can write on my college essay, ha, I run half marathons. It was more of like the benefits that I got during the run. Like I have a pretty healthy body. And like during the run, I'm thinking about like what I want to do, like how my life is going, what I need to do in my life. So I feel like the mental and physical benefits to doing sports, which I can speak on, is what really helped me become like a better person and probably tune myself towards going into an elite university, and not the fact that, oh, I did cross country so I can write it on my college apps. That's probably.
So I guess for me, since I was into STEM, I based like the majority of my extracurriculars around STEM, especially environmental science, since I was interested in that. And like the thing is, like if you're applying for a major, or like if you show like for example, when I got accepted by Duke, like the admission for Duke ED, when you get in, admission officer like sends you a mail with like you know, a letter saying like, oh, congratulations. So like on mine, my admission officer said, oh, I was really like I really enjoyed you being enthusiastic about your interest in environmental science. So like, it definitely shows that if you're applying for something, a major, that like, it'd be good if you get a lot of activities around it, I guess. For me, like, I did like internships every single summer. And then, you know, I did a lot of my own research. You know, I published a paper and stuff like that. So like, and it's, of course, something that I'm interested in. Like, if I wasn't interested in it, and I'm just doing it for college, like, that would definitely show off and to be ingenuine and stuff like that. And I guess, like, to find something that, like, really, like, pushes you or, like, makes you stand out, like, don't force your children to do something that they don't want just because, like, other children are doing it, and it's good. Like, for example, 9th grade, or like throughout middle school, I was playing violin, you know, like all Asian parents like, choose piano or violin, and then like you pick one, right? So like, I played violin all throughout middle school, right? And you know, I wouldn't say I'm like good at it, but I was like, all right. And then through high school, I was like, yo, I really don't like this instrument. And like, maybe I was playing like guitar or something, that'd be cool, but like, I really didn't like violin, so then I stopped it. And like a lot of my friends got put, and my parents were fine with it. They told me, okay, find some stuff that you're interested in, and then we can, you know, make you, or like let you do that instead. But a lot of my friends, their parents, like, even though like, they text me all day and like, oh, I have to practice violin again, practice piano again. And like their parents forced them all 4 years of high school to like play that instrument. In the end, like, did that really make them stand out? Like, was it really worth the time they put in? I mean, it's a different thing if they really liked it. I do have friends that really like violin, and they, you know, enjoy playing it. But, you know, definitely, like, talk to your children about, like, or, like, if you are children, talk to your parents about what you're actually interested in. And, yeah, that was long. My bad.
You're good. Yeah, and parents, listen to your kids, because I played piano. I quit in 9th grade. I'm not saying if you like piano to quit. Because, I mean, one of my best friends at school played piano probably since she was like 4. She's also Chinese American. She still plays piano. She does it extracurricularly. She was considering going to conservatory for it, you know? People do like it. It's nothing about those particular activities that is wrong, or really anything that's wrong. It's all about like how you feel when doing it, what those extracurriculars mean to you and your passions. I think I'm going to tell a very brief story to kind of be an answer to that. My college counselor, as you guys know on the Common App, there are 10 activities you can list. I was down to 9 and 10, and I had nothing to put. And so I put like this club that I founded that like kind of existed, but we didn't do anything, right? Like it was a club I founded. Definitely don't lie on your application because they can tell. Because they've been reading thousands and like hundreds of thousands of applications, and they can immediately tell if you're lying. Don't lie. It was a club I founded. I wasn't passionate about it. And when we were going through my list, my college counselor was like, hey, I've never heard you talk about this club before. Like, does it mean anything to you? Are you excited by it? And I was like, honestly, no, I didn't have anything to put. And she was like, okay, what do you do in your free time? And I was like, well, like dumb things that don't belong on a college app, right? Like, I bake a lot of cookies. I literally bake a lot of cookies, bake a lot of pies, bake cakes, right? And she was like, that sounds way more exciting to put on a college app. And remember that these schools are accepting people. They're not accepting applications, and they're looking for you to be an 18-year-old student that can belong on their campus and make other people happy. And she was like, what you should be putting here is that you bake cookies all the time. It's kind of weird, and it like gives you a personality. I ended up writing one of my Yale essays about baking. I talked about it in all of my interviews, and like I still bake on campus. It is something that like is kind of who I am. And it isn't academic at all, and doesn't seem like something that belongs on a college app, but it's definitely something that contributes to who I am.
I would say everyone's pretty much covered that part of it, so I would say like just for students, like the way to find things outside of school extracurricularly is if you're interested in something, look it up. Like I was really interested in the beginning of my high school, I was really interested in medicine. And I found this super cool doctor at Duke, and I was like, sure, I'll just shoot him an email, see if he responds. He responded, he gave me an internship, he got me connections, I got a paper published because I was like just, you know, hanging out with him. So just reach out to people. Networking is so important. So find something you love, find someone who's better than you at it, or someone who's really experienced with it, and, you know, roll with it. In 11th grade, same thing happened to me. I ended up writing an article about feminism and religion, and I put it on my personal blog, which had like 4 followers, and then a really big publisher in California found it and asked me to write a piece for her. And so then I submitted a piece for her, and then I ended up working for the company, and then I ended up on the board of the company, and then like, you know, so like people like really are interested in students who are interested in specific things, right? So like, this lady from California was like 30, and she's like, I've never seen a high schooler writing about, you know, religion and activism. So if you really like something, then find those people because they want to give you the opportunities. My brother, same thing. He loves data analysis for the MBA. So he wrote to some company at like it's called Beat. They were like, okay, you can clean the benches. Like they like basically gave him a janitor job, and then they asked him to code something. They found out he knew how to code, and then he ended up like traveling to like 3 different states to like do coding for these NBA teams. So like just network and like find those people to, you know, like help you because they want to help, especially high school students that they see have those talents.
It's also okay if you don't publish papers,
Oh,
and if
yeah.
you don't end up working for companies, and you don't do internships. I didn't do any. I don't have a paper published, and like it's really amazing that these people do, but don't think that makes you, like, that you have to be in that category to like get into elite universities. Once again, like find your path.
All right, yeah. Building on that, Anna, like don't be scared to reach out to people. Like,
Yeah.
so sophomore summer, I sent out emails to, like cold emails. I was just pretty desperate for an internship, all right? So I literally went down like a staff directory page at Duke, and I was just emailing people like, yo, give me an internship. I'm kind of smart. And so like, I came across one, and they were kind enough to give me an internship, and to this day, I'm still working there, and I even dragged Larry in. So like, quite literally, just don't be scared to reach out to people. There's opportunities out there that don't like come to you. You need to find them. So like, don't be scared of reaching out to people. That is definitely a very important thing to do during high school. So yeah, networking is important.
You guys are all went to pretty good high schools, right? Carey Academy, and you know, so how important do you think does the high school contribute to your college education, and why? And if you go to say average public school, do you think you can achieve the same? Or?
All right, please let me start. So, you know, I felt like this question would come up because I looked at like the standard. I was like, all right, we got 2 Enlos, which is a prestigious magnet school, and we got 2 Carey Academies. Like people who go to Panther Creek, Green Hope might be biased, but let me answer this question. All right. So I believe that the high school you go to doesn't really impact what college you can get in, because, you know, like our high schools, we offer a lot of APs. They have good college counselors. All right. What all students have access to is extracurriculars. All right. So I would like to say that if you really put your students like emphasis on an extracurricular, and like, you know, they had a really strong application because of their commitment and their like interest in speech and debate, all right, and like we had a lot of AP classes. So like AP classes might not be available to you guys going to Panther Creek or Green Hope, but you know, speech and debate is in every high school. Like if you find an extracurricular that you're interested into and you build that up and build your app around that, I promise you that there is no like limit to like how many good college like a high school can send. Like some people will be saying like, oh my God, Panther Creek can only have like 5 kids go to T10 universities. No, all right, it's not the case. It's not like about how many APs your school offers. It's about what you as a student or like your child does extracurricularly wise. All right, that's available to like every student everywhere. All right, just it's what you do with your time. And although like in the school setting, we might be able to do more because we have more AP classes to prove like our intelligence, but everyone outside of school is able to run, all right? Like, don't tell me you can't run because you go to Panther Creek. Just like join the cross country team, it's not hard. So like, you can do extracurriculars, it's available to all students, and if you manage that well, you'll definitely have a strong application. So do not feel pressured, like do not feel like you are below anyone just because you don't go to Carey Academy or Enlo or like Gibbons or something, like I don't know.
Can I take this one next? Sure. I also want to just call out that that doesn't mean that everyone's on an even playing field when going into the college application process, because it is true that, at least for me, going to a private school gave me opportunities that may not be accessed at other schools. So it's important in that context. But in a similar vein, what they're looking for is that you take all of the resources you're given and that you're using them and also going above and beyond within the ability that you have. So a ton of my friends on campus went to schools that potentially don't offer APs, that nobody from their school has ever gone to an elite university, and most people don't go to university. And that's rare, of course, because a lot of people at elite universities do come from like privileged backgrounds in schools where they're like kind of curated to go to these schools. But what those students did to stand out was that they took the high school that they were given and that they took those difficult classes that their high school did offer and they looked online for other schools and they reached out and cold emailed professors and tried to find a space where they could further their abilities despite the fact that they weren't given resources by their high school. So it matters in the sense that it can potentially present more opportunities that seem more accessible or seem more visible to you. And it can give you a foot up in that would be easier to reach out to a teacher nearby or a professor or someone in your school. But it doesn't mean that you can't be in those spaces if you're not taking advantage of what you're given. Cool?
Sure. Yeah, like was mentioned before, you can excel coming from any school. Like there's no, cutoff where it's like, oh, if you go here, you'll do better or whatever. I guess I have a little bit of a different experience. I went to a school that went through 12th grade, and then I went to Carey Academy. And the environment's different in the sense that like Carey Academy encouraged me to express myself as me. Whereas this other school was like, they wanted more conformity. And it was like, everybody should act like this, everybody should believe this, and whatever, whatever. So in that sense, Carey Academy was really helpful for me because it allowed me to explore things about myself that I wouldn't have been able to know otherwise. I was never really exposed to a lot of diversity until I came to Carey Academy. And then I ended up finding a lot of passion in promoting diversity and exploring the concept of diversity. So I think that where you go to high school matters in the sense that it depends what you find and what you stick with. So speech and debate I joined because it was like the only 2-day elective instead of 3-day elective. And then I ended up like absolutely loving it, investing all my time into it and pouring my heart out to kids that I, will keep in contact with probably forever, that still text me when they need things, like totally unschool related. So it's basically whatever high school you go to, get the most out of that high school that you're going to. You know what, like if you really love a certain teacher and the way that they teach, go talk to them after class. Go, have a conversation. Some of my best friends are teachers. Like we go to trivia night together and like, so like just like things like that. Yeah, things like that just like made my high school experience. And what really helped me in my college process are those teachers. Like I sat with one of my teachers at 9:30 p.m. on Halloween night at 9:30 p.m. and was like, I can't fix this sentence in my Common App, please help me fix it. So that did shape me, and I will say that like having those close connections with my teachers, having that small class, You know, like having that environment where they celebrated who I am rather than trying to conform it to a certain way did really help me, especially in getting to college. But I know that everybody's experience is different. But it's basically just make the most out of wherever you are, and you will come out with that newfound experience.
So other than classes or courses or extracurricular activities, one of the other important things we consider for high school is better peers, right? And schoolmates and people that influence you maybe in a better way when you go to a school, right? So how do you feel about the importance of that when you're in the Carrick Academy or NO? How much did that contribute to your
Yeah, so I was gonna say like, that was like the main difference. So like my base school was Panther Creek, and you know Panther Creek's a good school, but I chose to go to Enlo, and like it helped because all my peers were like really competitive, you know. So like by them being competitive, it also pushed me to be competitive. So like, yeah, I think like me getting into Duke, like a lot of it had to do with going to Enlo, not just because you know they have more AP classes or whatever, but because like the students there were competitive, and like I would like take stuff from them. Like some of my friends would be like really, you know, into like you know, an extracurricular activity, and then like I would, you know, also get to like, they would tell me about it and stuff like that. And also all the students, especially at Enlo, are really competitive academically. They also, you know, help me, like push me to be more academic, I guess. So like that helped a lot. And I guess getting a good friend group in high school is really, really important, I would say. And like, yeah, it's mostly like your emotional and social like support, you know, like especially high schoolers, like we're stressed out by a lot of things, but like by having like friends and having a social life, I think that's really important because, and I like say like Enlo like helped me a lot with that since I had a lot of close friends through Enlo. So I guess that would be the only difference. I like not saying that like not going to like Enlo or like Carrick Academy or like a good high school like really made a difference, but like at least with the people there is a, I guess, difference in that sense.
And I think I almost went to Enlo, so I went to Carnegie, which feeds into Enlo. And at first, my parents' decision to pull me into private school was not something that I liked because I knew I had my support network from, I went to Washington for 4th and 5th grade, so these people that I had been friends with for 5 years, I knew they were my good friends. I thought they were good kids. I mean, they are good kids. And I didn't want to leave that. And I end up being so thankful for it because I know me personally, with the competitive environment that Larry enjoys and thrives under, wasn't for me. And I know that I think if I was in that space, I don't know if I would have come out the same way where I could react and learn from the competitiveness both from friends and academically in the same way where I could have succeeded at the end. So really understanding, like listening to your kids and understanding that they may know themselves, but also like kind of gauging their personalities, like you know them and they know themselves better than anyone else, and really putting themselves in an environment they want to be in and amongst friends they want to be with, I think is tied to high school, though not like mutually exclusive. Like you can find people, any type of person at any school, but there are schools that have certain environments.
Yeah, building off of what Grace said, I don't thrive under competition. And so something that at Carrick Academy, I can't even imagine being in a more competitive environment, was being around all these kids who were so smart and like taking all the same classes I was and getting all the good grades that they needed to get. And actually being around those kids ended up hurting me academically because I thought that I wasn't good enough and I thought that I wasn't smart enough for the school, and I actually asked my parents to transfer me around 10th grade because I thought, you know, I couldn't handle the work like some of the other kids could handle it. So what's really important though is like, so we have a really small grade, we have 100 people. So I wouldn't say that you can go to, you know, a school and say like, oh, this school won't work for me because this group of kids are here. There are the kids at school that will be super competitive, or there will be the kids who are not really competitive and don't really care.
Be a good listener. Really listen to your kids trust them. I mean, obviously you have a lot more expertise, and I mean, all teens will probably fight back and treat you and talk to you like they have more expertise than you do. Clearly that isn't true, and they'll probably understand in the future why you said what you did. But also listen to them and definitely want the best for your kid and want their happiness above anything else, even if that doesn't end up looking like what you think their happiness looks like.
Yeah. So, I'll just be straight with it. I didn't have the best relationship with my parents, and this mostly stemmed down to both of us being really stubborn. So, you know, I told you guys that I quit swimming during high school was because he was really adamant about it. My dad really pushed me to swim a lot and played the violin and played the piano. So, you know, I had all of that. But, you know, I got, you know, when it comes more to like push, like I don't like being forced to swim, all right? So in high school, I literally quit swimming because my dad was forcing me to. But I actually like enjoyed it, so I picked it back up again. So like sometimes like reverse psychology almost plays a thing, as in like if you force your child to keep on doing it, like it doesn't help. It makes him hate it. So like Grace does a really good point in like bringing up the fact that listen to your kids. All right, if I don't want to be jumping in a cold swimming pool 5 days a week, like stop making me swim that much, Dad. All right, like come on, it's not hard. But you know, we were both pretty stubborn, so we went one end or the other. So I was gonna swim a lot, or I was gonna swim at none. So I swim none for a while, but now I'm swimming again. But the point is, like, definitely look out to listen to your kids. You want them to be happy. You want to have like a good relationship with them. So I feel really bad because I didn't develop like a good relationship with my parents throughout high school. Like we're better now. Like he's proud that I got into Duke. So like we're like better now, but like. I don't want like the relationship between any kid and their parent to be bad throughout high school because of the stress of getting in college. As parents, I believe it is your job to like recommend your child to do things, but not force them to do things. You know, you got to have some compromise room, and that was really like probably the best advice. Like the parents, listen to your kids and have an area for compromise. So,
and. I don't know, I guess it was just because like my mom especially would like always talk to me every single day about like how my day was and stuff like that. And all of that's like really important because it made it so that it was easy for me to talk to her about stuff. And the other thing is like things that like other parents like would like not let their children do, like stuff like hanging out with friends and stuff like that. My mom would like push me to hang out with friends. And you know, unless it was like super late on a Tuesday or something, but like usually, usually my parents would be like supportive of that. Like even though like you know my mom would like tell me to do study sometimes, but like whenever like I would have a social event or something like prom or something, my mom would be like, "Yo, you have to go to prom," and like she would support me in those social events. And it's like, and also like you know relationship stuff. Like my mom would support me like stuff like that, and like. I just feel like it's, like, you should definitely, like, listen to your child a lot, and then, like, also, like what Keon said, don't force them to do something, but rather recommend them, and, like, if they really don't like it, then don't do it. But also, like, let your children have a social life. Like, social life is really important. Like, like, it's really hard to just, you know, study every single day all throughout high school, you know? Like, let your children, like, hang out with friends and stuff like that, you know? So...